Hello there, it is Rebecca Reinking with a H insertion trick teaching video. Now, a lot of the times I will see SLPs or parents use the H insertion trick and then they come up with this roadblock. And they always say, Rebecca, now my child is walking around and they're saying, hun, sh, hip, and they don't know what to do. And I think it goes back to how you are initially teaching the H insertion trick. And I don't want to give you more work to do, which is then trying to undo that pattern. So we are going to look at all of the sounds that we use for the H insertion trick. And I'm going to show you the incorrect way, the way I don't want you to model it. And then I'm going to show you the way I want you to model it. And it's going to be a little bit of a stepped process, because the way that I teach the H insertion trick, as like with most cues with children, is I might start off with being a bit slow, giving more support, and then gradually I fade those cues away. And that is the same thing for this trick. Hopefully you've seen some of our other videos on adventures in speech pathology about the H insertion trick, so you know what sounds we need to use it for and you know what the trick is about. If not, make sure you go and watch them first, because this video is really about how you are going to implement and teach it to your students. Let's just get to basics first, and I want you to really orient you to these visuals that I use here. When I am first introducing this trick, I am making sure that the child knows what this first sound is here, so that they know that every time they see the snake, they have to say S. Or every time they see that bunny, they know what bunny teeth means. They know, especially if they're familiar with our animal cues, that they have to show me their teeth and that it has to be on their lips. Okay, so that's really important that you teach and familiarize that initial sound first. Then I always make sure I teach and the child knows what this H word is. And sometimes I do have to explain and I do have to tell the child something about the word just to familiarize them with this word. Once you have done all that, we can go straight into how you are first going to model and introduce it to your child. Now, what I'm going to do in this clip is I'm going to go through all of the 7 examples of the sounds that I use. So feel free to go down the bottom of this bar here and fast forward to the right sound or the sound that you are using with your child if you just need a little bit of clarity. But listen to this part first, because it is going to apply to all of the sounds that we use our trick with. When we first teach the H insertion trick, we are generally going to start slow, and we might elongate this first sound, especially for our long fricative sounds, s, sh, and ch, that affricate. We are going to make that sound quite long, and we are going to join it onto the H word. And it's going to join on so that you can't really hear where that first initial sound ends and that H word begins. So I am going to go through all these sounds, starting with F first. So the correct way to teach the H insertion trick for words starting with F is like this. Heat. Do you see how slow that was? And you didn't hear a gap. Heat. And then we're going to speed it up and gradually decrease that, okay? Heat, heat, heat. The incorrect way to teach this would be like this. Heat. Okay, we don't want a gap. So to make sure you're not using that gap, that's why I recommend making that first initial sound long at first. And the next tip, instead of saying heat really quickly, make that H sound, that first sound, long as well, so that the first sound, that initial sound, is long and it joins on to the next long part of the first part of the H word, okay, the H. Heat. For S, now S words, the incorrect way to teach the H insertion trick would be to say hey, okay? That's not how we're going to do it. We're going to remember to elongate that first sound, that long S, and then we're going to make the first part of the H word, the H really, long, okay? We're going to join it together. Say, 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 say. That was a bit of a 4-step process to show you how you might start slow and then you gradually decrease how slowly you're modeling it. Well, you're increasing it really. You're increasing the speed until it doesn't really sound like you're saying that H word at all. With SH, we are going to do the same thing in that we are going to make that sh part long and turn it into the H word. So the correct way to teach the H insertion trick for sh is she, she. Now, I'm giving you a 4-step process. You are not going to be using this 4-step process with the child, but hopefully by the end of your session, that is how you are going to be modeling it. The incorrect way is sh, he. Okay, we are not doing a gap, and that is too quick. We're not doing sh, he. She. For CH, for our affricate, the correct way that I would model it would be chair, chair. Okay, so I'm starting long and I'm emphasizing those sounds and then I'm speeding it up. Do not say hair. Don't do it like that, because then again the child is just going to walk around saying hair or hip, and it's going to be very, very hard for you to undo. The biggest tip I'm going to give for S, F, SH and CH is to use your finger, because these sounds are long and I find that your finger is a great cue. It helps slow down and show the child which part of the word and how slowly they should do the trick. And then as you speed it up, you can speed your finger up as well. It's a great cue. Now, the next section are our plosives. This is P, T, and K. Now, I might use this if the child is having difficulties with voicing, and because these are plosives and there is that explosion of air, it can be a little bit more difficult to model this because it is quite hard to elongate that sound. But this is how I would start and teach the K sound, the K. Okay, so I'm going to say it really slowly again. And as much as possible, I'm going to have that explosion of air join onto the H word. So for cat, I would say cat, cat. Okay? I don't want you to say hat. That would be the incorrect way to teach it. So because, again, we have that long or that big air explosion, we want that explosion of air. And you might look at the visual that we have here and with the air pictures and say, oh, that has to join onto the H word. So it would be cat, cat, cat. That would be the correct way to teach it. If you're using the H insertion trick for P, P, you would still focus on that explosion of air joining on to the start of the H word. So the correct way to teach it and to introduce it would be peel, peel. So we're turning that explosion of air at the end of P into the H word. So it might be a little bit harder to hear where that ends and where the H word starts. But again, you might use your finger to really emphasize that. I don't want you to teach it as p, heel. Okay? P, heel. It's not going to work because then the child is just going to walk around saying p, hop or p, who for any of those other plosive sounds. And when it comes to T or T, I find that this is a little bit easier compared to the other two plosives to use the H insertion trick for. So if you just want to try it with one first, I would recommend that you start with T, because it is a little bit easier to keep that air going and to make a long T sound, which then you can join onto the H word. So the correct way that I would teach the H insertion trick using T is like this. High. High. So again, I'm using that long air for T to join onto and turn it into that H word, which is high. Tie, 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 tie. Okay, that would be that 4-step process. Do not teach it as high. So we don't start quick. We always start slow, and then we gradually increase our speed and reduce how obvious that H word is, and then it should just turn into and help that child transition between those voiceless sounds into that voiceless H to make this target word sound so much more natural and easy to say. Now, if you're a speech pathologist, maybe you want to send this video clip to parents so that they are implementing and saying these sounds clearly as well. We do have instructions on our H Insertion Trick pages, but a lot of people just benefit from seeing a model and seeing how someone else does it. So share it with your parents and maybe just highlight which section, if you are focusing on a specific sound, which section the parent should watch. And hopefully it means that they can support you at home and use the H insertion trick just like you were using it in therapy. If you would like any more instruction videos on how to teach or model, please comment below, because our channel really is geared towards you, towards helping speech therapists and students feel more confident treating speech sound disorders, and give us a thumbs up while you're there.